Vodafone presents the pre-match.
Hey everyone, welcome to another day of the ESL Pro League. It's the China qualifiers this time, day 3, Tim, and your first day here for us on the ESL Pro League this season, so welcome, good to have you.
Thank you, it's good to be here. I do like me a bit of the old Pro League, and I've got multiple reasons that we're looking at for this season, but starting with some China.
Yeah, exactly, China, and in China there's also multiple regions within this qualifier as well. Obviously we do have Chinese teams in the China qualifier, incidentally, but there's also the likes
Just
of...
by chance.
Yeah, there's also the likes of MVP and Gosu, who both of which we'll be watching today, obviously both coming from the Korean region. But both of those two teams have had a pretty good time recently, particularly Gosu being able to get through further in the upper bracket here in the closed qualifier. So we'll have a look at the bracket here and show you how things have played out, Tim. Catch everyone up on how everything has been playing out. Obviously, the real takeaway from this, the one that's interesting me and the one that everyone was a bit surprised about, was that Tyloo got knocked down into the lower bracket in their first match against Vici Gaming, and obviously that's put Vici Gaming in a pretty nice run through to the upper bracket final, which, I mean, obviously has kind of thrown things into a bit of disarray.
Absolutely. I mean, I didn't get a chance to catch that match, but the fact that Tyloo let a map slip, or a best of 3 even slip to any of these teams is a big surprise.
Yeah.
Like, sure, we can absolutely expect it's online CS, that an upset or two is going to happen. Tyloo might drop a map here or there, but we wouldn't expect them to be losing best of 3s, especially not their very first one in the entire league. So, in the lower bracket now, they beat SC Absolute. They're now waiting for another team to drop down for their next opponent, but they've got no second chances. They lost their first round. If they lose another best of 3, they're out of the playoffs or out of contention for the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. I would still sort of suspect that I think Tyloo will be the one to come through from the lower bracket, but regardless, quite an interesting prospect there ahead for the rest of this close qualifier, the rest of this season in the Chinese region. Also really opens the door up for Vici Gaming because they looked really, really good against Tyloo in that matchup. I didn't think they looked quite as good against CyberZen, even despite the fact that they were able to get the 2-0 in that one. And I think we're probably going to be seeing Vici up against MVP in the upper bracket final. But that's kind of what we're going to get to figure out later on today. Obviously, we're going to get to see those MVP matches. And if MVP does actually beat Ehome, then they're going to go up against their brethren, I suppose, in Gosu, both coming from the same region in that next upper bracket round. But then again, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that MVP is going to quite easily be able to wrap their matchup against Ehome so easily. You know, there's been some changes for MVP. Ehome still not a bad side, but you know, you'd probably be leaning towards MVP, I think, for that first one.
Yeah, I think that's entirely reasonable. I mean, they had made the one roster change recently, bringing in Mini Zeta, but I think they'll be fine with that. They still look pretty solid from the matches that I've seen with him in. He's certainly been fitting in okay from the CS that I've been seeing from them, so I don't think they should have too much of an issue going through both their matchups here and getting into that upper bracket final. But still, with Tyloo out of the equation until potentially they get locked into the lower bracket, it's actually quite an important match for whoever ends up playing Vici in that final, because you're playing Vici, and if you can't beat them, you're playing Tyloo. Same thing goes for Vici. They're going to have a rematch of that lower bracket, or upper bracket, assuming, of course, that Tyloo will be the team to make a lower bracket run, which I think is a reasonable assumption.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of you know, the lower bracket run, the upper bracket final, what all that means is obviously heading on into the future. Every single one of these teams is looking toward the season finals, December 7th to 9th, Tim, in Odense. Once again, we're going back to the venue of the Season 6 finals. So another good opportunity for all of these teams to come through and head over to another ESL Pro League season final. Last season it was MVP who came from the Asia region, and it was Greyhounds from the ANZ region that did make their way through. Neither of whom really did a whole lot, I don't think, at those season finals. They both got knocked out in groups, and as far as I can remember, didn't actually pick up a map win. But you know, if it's Tyloo, for an example, I think that's definitely a team that could do some damage over at the season finals this season. Yeah,
certainly. It's a really cool venue. I haven't had a chance to go over, but I remember watching the season 6 finals and being like, wow, this setup's awesome, which they usually are for Pro League, but hey. So that'd be cool. If you want to go, you can go join the teams. You can't play against them, unfortunately, but you can go watch, go check it out. You might see the famous selfish guy again.
Probably
season,
not.
so.
I don't think so. Anyway, let's have a look at what we're going to be watching today, because obviously that's what we're here for. Ehome and MVP, as I mentioned, will be the first match. Now, this is actually the first match of their bracket run. We haven't seen either of these two teams play just yet because, you know, obviously scheduling, certain teams couldn't play on certain days. So we're at square one for both MVP and Ehome. Winner of that will go up against Gosu, who have already played their first match, and they were able to get a pretty solid win there. But, I mean, you'd look at this, you'd say MVP probably on paper should get a couple of 2-0s today. Obviously, we haven't really seen too much of MVP up against Ehome, and we really haven't seen too much of Ehome in general. But most definitely MVP. If they do get through Ehome, I would be predicting them to get the 2-0 over Gosu.
Yeah, I would think that 2-0s for MVP are an entirely reasonable call out here. I haven't seen too much of either of these teams. I have casted Gosu a few times. I think I might have done Ehome once, but they were both with very different lineups looking back like a season of two. Maybe some Zen League qualifiers, maybe it was Pro League, I can't remember, but it's been a while since I've casted these two teams, and MVP we've seen quite a lot of. We have a pretty good handle on where their strengths are going to lie, on who their more confident players are. So just based on what we've seen before, I think I'm feeling pretty good for MVP in these games, but I'm willing to be surprised.
Yeah, most definitely. I think the issue for Ehome, obviously, is they don't play quite as much Counter-Strike as a lot of the other teams do, or perhaps they do, and it would be, I guess, domestically within China and matches that we're not necessarily so easily able to have a look at. But even then, if that is the case, I would say the competition within the Chinese region, outside of obviously like Tai Lu and Vici and maybe Flash there as well, is probably not quite the level of the competition that, for example, MVP might get to go up against a little bit more regularly. So I do think there's a little bit of extra experience there for MVP. They've had a lot more international opportunities, most certainly, than what Ehome have been able to have of late. And Ehome, you know, it's just a roster that, while they do okay within China, they're never really kind of hitting that peak level. They're never really hitting like number 1, number 2.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of Ehome within China, sure, they might be playing a lot of domestic Chinese CS, but it's not like, as a lower tier team, I mean, I'm not saying they're a bad team, you know, they're not top 1 or 2. As a lower tier team in the region, it's not like you're going to be scrimming Tai Lu every day or whatever. It's like the top teams will normally scrim the top teams.
To put this match into context, Tim, MVP is the second seed. They were invited through into these qualifiers, and Ehome, they were obviously the team to come through from the open qualifier number 1. So they are an open qualifier team, not necessarily expected to do so well here. But if they're going to do well, Tim, what they are going to need to do is play a little bit faster. They have to go out hard in this matchup against MVP. I mean, obviously both of these two teams, they do like Inferno, so I suspect that we're going to be very likely to see that map coming out in this one. And if you can get the better of MVP maybe on Inferno, if that's the first map here as Ehome, who knows what you can do later on down the track. Maybe the second map favors you. Maybe MVP's having an off day. Maybe you have a chance here.
Maybe. I mean, getting a win over MVP on Nuke is something that we've seen a lot of teams domestically, on Inferno even. It's something we've seen a lot of teams struggling with. I say Nuke because that's the other map that they used to be super strong at. I'm not sure if they play it so much at the moment with the roster change, but they used to love Nuke, and Inferno as well was a map they were very strong on. So if you can beat MVP on Inferno, you can probably beat them on a lot of the other maps as well if you can do that consistently, because they're a very solid team on Inferno. They do know exactly what they're doing. They don't make a lot of chance plays. It generally tends to be very calculated and calm Counter-Strike from them. So it's if you can beat them on Inferno, it's probably because you've got a good game plan going in, and you're not just like, chancing a win or anything like that. Like, we'll just go here and we'll kill them all. It's fine. Yeah,
obviously, just having a look at the rosters here, having a check and seeing if anything has kind of cropped up here. Now, as far as I was aware, Ehome was going to be playing with X-Pro instead of Original Heart, but I'm not sure if that's maybe the same player, just under a different name. Again, not 100% familiar with this Ehome roster. Haven't casted too many of their games, but on the MVP side of things, everything is looking very, very good there. Obviously, that's the roster that we expect to see. Now, Mini Zeta, you sort of mentioned earlier, has recently come into this roster. And I kind of say recently, but it's actually been a while now. It's been at least a few months. And the first time that I ever saw MVP play with this roster was in the IEM, I think it was the Chicago closed qualifiers for the Asia region, and it was MVP that came through the lower bracket after forfeiting their match in the upper bracket final against Flash Gaming. They had a map disadvantage in that best of 5 final, and ended up essentially 3-0ing Flash Gaming. It was a 3-1 on paper, but really Flash Gaming got absolutely nothing done, and Mini Zeta was an absolute beast. He was just destroying them with that AWP, and so really seems to have slotted nicely into this MVP PK lineup. A lot of firepower coming from him, and obviously when you combine Zyne and Mini Zeta together, then I think that's a pretty scary prospect for any of these teams going up against MVP PK. The real question for me is, though, like when he sort of slots into this roster, we've seen good performances out from HSK with that AWP in the past, but the inconsistency was the problem for MVP. So is Mini Zeta going to be a bit more of a consistent sort of an AWPer here for MVP?
Well, that's what I was going to mention, is that when I watched old MVP with HSK in, he was a good AWPer when he hit his stride, but he had really big, as you said, consistency issues. There were some maps where he just destroyed everyone, and then some maps where he's holding his crosshair on an angle, a guy peeks and he misses. And you're like, okay, well, so if they can get Mini Zeta in, he can have more consistency, which from what I've seen of MVP, he has had, I don't think he's had as high highs as HSK did, but I think he's had a more consistent solid impact across the maps that I've seen anyway, which has not been a lot. So
yeah,
we'll
you
see.
didn't watch that game against Splash. You should go back and watch that one. At least the Mirage game, that was where Minizetta was just going absolutely ham. So I do think that this guy has got a lot of potential, and this MVP roster does have a lot of potential. I got to be honest, like, you know, we haven't seen too much of MVP with this new roster. It has only been a few months, but I actually kind of want to say that I do think that this could be the strongest MVP roster that we have seen. But, you know, again, it's going to take time. We're going to have to see how long things last and if it's just a honeymoon period or whatnot, because if you remember when Zion joined this roster, when HSK was still there for MVP, we were like, great, MVP's looking awesome. They seem like perhaps the best team in the Asian region, and that kind of didn't really end up turning out. Tyloo kind of were in a bit of a slump then, but then, you know, they kicked things back off, and so MVP is still sort of playing second fiddle here to Tyloo at the moment.
And for MVP, like, we've been watching and casting them for a while with the Zen League in previous seasons, and what we've got to remember is they were losing, like, LAN games to Rekka. But that was when, for those maybe international viewers who don't have any context on this, Rekka was a team who, at the time, had two names you'll know, Bentet and Excurate. Both those guys came from the same team. And they're now on Tyloo, who, of course, are doing well internationally. So if you're going to be playing a domestic team and has potentially two of the best players that the region's produced in quite some time, then maybe the losses are more expected. And MVP was doing well against a lot of other teams. But then now, I think they're going to be potentially, as you said, even better.
Well, Tim, we were talking a little bit about the maps earlier on. Now it's time for us to find out what maps we actually are going to be having a look at today. So let's see what those will be. Cation overpassed the first two vetoes, so I'm going to be saying we are going to be seeing an Inferno here as the pick, either from Ehome or MVP, to be honest. I don't think either will be disappointed to see that. So
I mean, MVP could even pick a nuke.
Yeah, it's going to be Ehome's choice, but MVP is going to be like, great, we've got Inferno. It's our best map. It's Ehome's best map as well, but I probably do favor MVP a little bit on that one. Dust 2, the choice of MVP PK. Now, that is a bit of an interesting one for me. I didn't necessarily expect to see Dust 2 being picked up by them. From what I've been seeing of them on Dust 2, it hasn't been particularly impressive. But then again, you can kind of say the same thing for Ehome. I think it's kind of a pretty bad map for them as well. So we've got a great map for both teams in Inferno. We've got, on paper, what looks like a poor map for both teams on Dust 2. But given the fact that MVP has chosen Dust 2, either they're just saying, okay, we can kind of quite easily roll over Ehome here. We don't need to show anything perhaps on Nuke or whatever, what have you. So we'll just go with Dust 2. Or they've actually been practicing Dust 2 and they feel like they've got something for us here on this second map.
Yeah, very possibly. I mean, the other thing is if they're feeling confident that they can win the first map, then they could very well go, all right, if we're confident taking the series, we want to work on Dust 2 in a more serious environment. We'll pick it here, play it. Even if it doesn't go so well, we can still rely on the third map, which we'll see what that is in a sec, to get us over that line because they're confident in Inferno. Maybe. Well, I mean, I would have still thought there'd be a nuke pick coming out, but it could be that they don't want to show their nuke maybe so early on in what is still just a qualifier. Like, these teams are still upper bracket. If they lose a best of 3, they're still going to have another chance. So maybe MVP don't want to pull out their nuke so early.
Yeah, I have to expect we'll see a nuke veto here, but actually not going to be the case. I thought Ehome would be getting rid of nuke. They haven't been playing very well on it of late. But then again, it's kind of all these 3 remaining maps were quite heavily biased towards MVP, I felt. So it was kind of the lesser of two evils, I suppose, here for Ehome. Train, a map that they only have a 25% win rate on in the last few months, but then again, Nuke's only a 20% win rate, so really, how do you feel about that? Mirage would have been the ideal choice for Ehome, but then again, it's a really good map for MVP lately as well. So based on the whole sort of map pool, you couldn't really see a situation in which Ehome was going to come out of this with an advantage, and I absolutely think MVP has got a very, very good map pool here with Inferno and Nuke in there. It absolutely should be a 2-1 minimum here for MVP, but it gives me a little bit of confidence that they have chosen Dust 2 as their map choice. I think they must have something ready for us here on this one, and we know Minizetta's really good with the AWP, so maybe he can just go ballistic.
Yeah, very possibly. I mean, as you said on paper, like, that's 3 maps where 2 of them are historically MVP's best maps. Like, Inferno and Nuke have always been just, they stomp everybody. And Inferno, a large part of that was their AWP presence. They had HSK going off at times. Minizetta doing well as well. Zion in particular is a menace on Inferno. Like, every time I've watched him play, he just manages to get a bajillion kills all the time. And then Nuke as well. It's a map that not many teams in our region know how to play super confidently.
No, well, not the Asian region in particular. I think in the ANZ region, teams played a little bit more. But most certainly in this region in particular, you probably really only see MVP play it. Like, even Tyloo doesn't play Nuke that much. So MVP, as part of that, they do get a lot of free map wins, or they have a lot of power in the vetoes because teams are forced to veto Nuke against them. In the end, the Nuke is allowed through from Ehome, and if the only way I think this veto could have actually gotten better for MVP is if they would have chosen Mirage, I think, because that's been such a good map for them. While it's a decent map for Ehome, again, you kind of got to look at these two teams. You think Ehome's got good maps, MVP has good maps, but where do you situate these two teams up against one another? Obviously, MVP is going to be quite a bit higher than Ehome in this scenario, so I would really back MVP to get the 2-0, even if it was Mirage or Dust 2. It doesn't really matter. I think MVP should get the 2-0 pretty much regardless of the maps. And because of the way that these two teams match up in terms of the maps, like their map pools are fairly similar, so it was always going to be tough for Ehome to come out of this one with even like a perceived advantage.
Yeah, it's really tough. Like they had to. I think Inferno was always going to be in there no matter what because both teams are relatively comfortable on it. But I'm really surprised to see that Nuke is left in there in that third ban. Like I understand that Ehome had to get rid of Train. They don't want to play that. But if you give MVP the choice to play Nuke, they're going to play Nuke, right? When they had the choice between what was the
Mirage and
Nuke,
yeah.
I'm not surprised at all they went for a Nuke ban there because while they might be good at Mirage, they're going to try and catch them out on Nuke. Just be like,
they're good at Nuke as well,
yeah,
but
exactly.
Ehome's
They're good at both maps, and Ehome won't be as comfortable on Nuke as they would be on Mirage. So MVP are like, all right, thanks. You've just given us the maps that we want. Easy peasy.
Yeah, exactly. There's no better way that could have really gone for MVP. Obviously, they get to choose what they get to choose. And so, all in all, they'll be pretty happy with this one. I'm going to say it's a 2-0 for MVP. I'm going to say probably a 2-0 in that Gosu match as well, even without seeing the map vetoes for that one. But I do just think MVP is going to be really the team to beat here in the upper bracket. Obviously, we've seen Vici. They've looked good, but the fact that they've gotten rid of Tyloo now, that's been kind of MVP's kryptonite for the better part of, the last year even here in the Asian region. Every time we see a qualifier like this, it's always kind of the storyline between Tyloo, MVP. Flash Gaming was sort of sprinkled in there a little bit when they were going through a good period, but they've never really been able to achieve the consistency that Tyloo and MVP have been able to do. So for MVP, now that Tyloo's kind of out of the way, as long as they don't falter here against the quote-unquote lesser teams, Ehome, Gosu, and then once they get to Vici, if they get to Vici in that upper bracket final, I would still back them in that one. I think they've got the team coordination. They've been together for a lot longer. They should have that experience that will be able to get them over Vici. But that will be a cracker of a match if we do get to MVP and Vici, because both of those two teams have shown really, really good form of late, and particularly in this qualifier for Vici game, and they've looked really, really good. So we have to see how MVP goes today, and then we kind of get to figure out how they'll go against Vici if they get there.
Yeah, that'll be good fun, but it's really interesting that that final boss, I guess, has been removed because, as you say, they've always struggled against Tyloo. They've been able to contest pretty much every other team. Even when we had the VG Flash Super Team for a while, the MVP still did okay. So, like, it's always just been beat everyone, get to Tyloo, you're playing Tyloo, things are scary.
Yeah.
So with Tyloo out of the way, as long as they don't fall to the lower bracket where they will face Tyloo inevitably.
Yeah. Well, usually the problem for teams as well is like once they do get to Tyloo is generally the one that comes through from the upper bracket final as well. And if you get into that final match, that best of 5, Tyloo's got a 1 map advantage, and you're like, great. We're going in against Tyloo, and we also have a map disadvantage. This doesn't sound very fun at all, and typically speaking, it's not. Sometimes, Tyloo doesn't even play in these qualifiers because they've got some other event that they're going to. They do tend to play a lot more international events than most of these teams do. So that kind of leaves the door open for MVP, and I think that was the case in the Season 7 situation where MVP did actually manage to go through to those finals. If I seem to recall correctly, I don't believe that Tyloo was actually in those qualifiers. Otherwise, I would have expected Tyloo probably should come away with the win there. But anyway, today, MVP, they only have to focus on Ehome, and they only have to focus on Gosu, 2 teams in which they should have a pretty good time against. Now, they haven't played against them too much. Obviously, Gosu has played against MVP a little bit more, both being from the Korean region. But Ehome and MVP, we haven't really seen much of that one. So we're not sure exactly what to go off here. But looking at the 2 rosters, man for man, you kind of look at those Ehome players and you think, okay, which of these guys is going to be able to step up? Who are the names that we really talk about a lot when we talk about Ehome? And there aren't that many. I mean, we can kind of think about Kasa when he used to be on the Flash Gaming roster. But at that time, to me, like that, he was not a big, huge deal on that Flash Gaming roster. We were talking a lot more about Kaze with the AWP at that time. But then you look on MVP, and we always are talking about Zion. We're kind of a little bit tentative about Minizeta at the moment, but he seems like a rising star in the Korean region. And then obviously everyone knows Solo, Zeph, and Glow from days of old, and they're always very, very consistent. Solo, especially now that he's gone back onto that secondary AWP role, does seem to be very, very strong for MVP. So I just don't see anywhere in this matchup where Ehome has a little bit of an advantage over MVP, be it the maps, be it the individual players, anything like that. It all just looks like it's MVP.
Yeah, I'd have to go with an MVP 2-0 here, but I think the only way that it could be a 2-1 as well is, well, it's going to be a 2-1 MVP, and I think it's if they trade map picks. Like, I don't see a world in which MVP lose Inferno here. They're definitely not going to lose Nuke, in my mind at least. So maybe they can trade map picks. Maybe Ehome can steal away Dust 2, possibly, just based on the fact that Dust 2 is, a bit of a question mark for MVP. We haven't seen it so much, whereas we do know what we're getting when we go into their Inferno and their Nuke. So maybe it's a 2-1 if they trade map picks, but I think, realistically, no matter how shaky they are tactically on Dust 2, MVP should be able to out-aim.
I think the firepower most definitely is there for MVP, which is not something that we used to really talk about, was it? Because even if you go back to Zen League, for example, which was pretty much a year ago now, MVP and alongside Solo at that time were always kind of considered more of a strategic team. We sort of saw them as the team that sort of set things up, executed, traded properly, flashed for each other, that kind of thing. We didn't really associate them with just raw aim, raw firepower or anything like that. But that we have started to see a bit of a shift, I think, in the playstyle of MVP now because of the addition of Zion, because of the addition of MiniZeta, these younger players coming into the roster and looking really, really, really solid just from the aim perspective and being able to kind of step up in those situations where they need to and have those amazing performances, which we occasionally saw from the old guard of MVP, a little bit more maybe from Solo than anyone else, but you don't necessarily get that sense from those other three guys. But definitely from Zion and MiniZeta, they have that firepower, that extra punch that MVP really needs to kind of just demolish opponents and maybe even challenge teams that are a little bit above them.
Yeah, maybe that in the case if we get to it. But yeah, with MVP, like you said, they were more of a tactical side, and that's why like a map like Nuke was great for them, for example, because Nuke is not a map that you really can win on straight firepower. I mean, you can try, but for example, if you run out into the A bomb side and you're like, great, I'm going to run out in A, take an aim duel, and I'm going to win it, there's so many angles to check. If you don't have teammates with you, if you don't have utility, right? Say you go out hut. Let's think about the angles you can be shot from. Anywhere in heaven, anywhere on the rafters, top of the hut, they could be playing back towards the vent, they could be playing like pretty much anywhere on the side, and you just can't check all of that by yourself and expect that they just, maybe there's one player you can isolate. It's very unlikely that will happen. There's normally a couple of defenders on A holding a crossfire, especially now that the window's gone. It's one less angle to worry about. If you molly or smoke door, then you just have your A site defenders watching hut. That's all they have to do. So if you're a team that's just like, right, we're just going to run out and kill them all, on Nuke it's not going to work. Whereas if you're a more tactical team, you throw a couple of grenades to help you out, smokes, flashes, molotovs, anything to force the CTs back, then you're going to have a bit more success. And MVP, old MVP, I remember they ran outside takes a lot. They would just take outside control and then either split in through A or go down through secret, any of these sorts of things. But they had a lot of time to work with the map because they just take a big portion of the map without us instantly and then be able to work with it from there.
Yeah, alrighty. Well, lots of discussion about both of these two teams, MVP and Ehome. Tim, quickly, we're going to go to a break, but you said 2-0 MVP?
Yep.
I'm going to lock in 2-0 MVP as well. That's the end of our pre-show, though, guys. Don't go anywhere. We are going to be back very, very shortly when the match starts. It's MVP versus Ehome starting off on Inferno. Don't go anywhere.
God, that is absolutely stunning! They are the champions!
I've been there since the beginning. Every map, every frag, every moment. I run, but I never hide. With knowledge comes power, and power is to be wielded wisely. Which is why, as the expert, I bet with Betway. If you know CSGO, then you'll know the best way to bet on esports is with Betway, for the love of the game.
ESL Pro League is brought to you in part by the City of Odense, Bedway, Pay Safeguard, Logitech G, MSI, and ESEA.
Hey everyone, welcome back. It's the ESL Pro League China Close Qualifiers, day number 3, Tim. And today is the day of the Koreans, really. It's interesting because we are in the Chinese qualifiers and we've got Korean teams playing. But anyway, MVP and Ehome, obviously in this first match. And Ehome probably have a bit of a difficult one up against them here, I think. MVP definitely the team to beat.
Certainly so. That will be the game to check out. Game that we're heading into.
Yeah.
Not sure exactly how it's going to go, but look, we think it's going to be the MVP 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of where we're at, right?
Yeah, I would say so. Obviously, there is a lot of things around here that we're not so sure about, whether or not we're going to be seeing MVP come in with their full form and everything like that. But they definitely have been looking good of late with that newer roster, that new addition, Mini Zeta. Definitely looking like a bit of a star. But we're moments away from getting into this matchup, Tim. The map pool, we had a look out there, we didn't think was going to be particularly easy for Ehome to deal with. And, I mean, really, like we said, the 2-0 for this one is what's likely going to be the par for the course. MVP will be looking for Zion and for Mini Zeta to step up here, obviously on Inferno being the first map. You know, you even mentioned Zion a little bit earlier on in the broadcast being such a dominant force for MVP in that map in particular. See whether or not Inferno is going to be MVP starting on the T side or on the CT side. I think given the fact that
they're starting T.
Ehome, oh really? Interesting.
Yeah, it's set in the bracket.
Yeah. Well, it's Ehome's map choice, right? So MVP must have chosen T side. Obviously confident in their T side, and part of that I think is obviously due to Zion. He likes to lurk around the A apartments, play late into the A bomb site. Everyone else on MVP hitting the B side, and he always seems to be able to find something coming out from those apartments, coming through boiler or out through carpets, and figuring out where those players are rotating from and what time, and he always seems to find them.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about being an apartments player on Inferno, right? You can take it early and you can try and find a frag early in the round and be the opener for your team. Or what we see a lot more of for apartments players, if it's a solo apartments player, that is, you take it and then you wait. And you can either sneak out boiler when your team are hitting B or out through carpet, whatever you want to do. You can sneak out and try and find a frag late in the round, cut off the rotation, and then be basically a massive nuisance for the CT side. So Zion is certainly a player that we've seen a lot of on this map doing exactly that. We'll see how he chooses to play it and how his team chooses to play it this time. But nonetheless, despite it being Ehome's map pick, we're still feeling good about MVP in this one, as I believe they will be starting on that T side.
Yeah, kind of an interesting choice. Normally you would start on the CT side, I think, if you had the option. But having a look across, it is going to be Ehome indeed, starting on CT side. And obviously the map choice of Ehome as well here. So they want to be starting off well. They do generally perform pretty nicely on Inferno, but how that's going to go against MVP, who is famed for their performances on Inferno within the Asian region, I think is another story. Let's find out though. MVP starting off on E and grouping up towards Banana.
Already forcing this first CT back with a grenade. Now peeking into him. Zeph refusing to give up the headshot though. Really wants Insane to fire, but there is flashbangs available for the T side here. Both sets of utility are in Banana. There's the second grenade. They haven't taken a single shot yet, but they've forced Insane all the way from top Banana, all the way back into CT. Now they've got smokes and flashes they can use. Most likely one for spools, one for CT. That'll get them onto the bomb site. Flashbangs as well. Should be a pretty easy take for MVP, at least to get onto the bomb site, as both CTs are playing retake. Got players starting to rotate over from the A site now as well, but they're all going to be locked out by the smokes. And
once you're on the site here as MVP in a pistol round like this, I always find it's quite difficult to retake. You won't have the utility or flashbangs or anything for Ehome to get back in here. So Insane is going to be important. He is only going to be able to get one. Mini's end up finding a couple to start things off and also planting the bomb. So definitely pulling his weight in this round for MVP. 4v3, the retake still yet to come for Ehome.
Still looked out behind those smokes as well now. They're just starting to fade. No kit available until Destroyer picks this one up, so that'll give them a little bit more time in this round, but Glow's playing close, waiting for him to push in. He's found himself the opening frag as well. Forced Destroyer back to, now just a 2v4, very difficult situation. All left up to Destroyer now, and he's being pinched on. They're all just going to charge in. He takes down one, looking for more damage. Actually does get away with two, but no more than that. Good pistol round from MVP.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously he gets a couple of kills at the end there, but MVP are definitely not going to be too worried about him him being allowed to have another couple of kills. It's really not going to net too much. Maybe, I don't know, an extra flashbang here on this force buy for Ehome. But regardless, it's going to be a good start for MVP. Looks like Destroyer will be the one to take the AWP for Ehome, so he's actually going to just save through. No armor for him this time. Marek going for quite a bit of utility, which is always important on the CT side of Inferno. But in a round like this, MVP most definitely have a huge, huge advantage. They can play the round out late, obviously waste a lot of that Ehome utility, and walk in basically when Ehome have run out of options. But looks like MVP are going to play fairly quickly here. Smoke down. They're going to cross straight into jungle.
Going to get the wrap going on the B side as well. Reinforced by Solo going up through Banana. All 4 players wrapping around through CT. Very difficult here for just a couple CZs to hold this one off. We'll CZ in a pistol. Marek, though, wants to throw a smoke to back up his teammates, but wasn't expecting the wrap that quickly. Unfortunately, should have been called from his team, but not much you can do with just a pistol at that range anyway.
Well, not a great early sign, though, for Ehome. Obviously, they should know that there's a player there. Now, Zion is going to try and back up Solo, but in the end, Solo and Zion do drop. Both the players with the SMG, so it is just a MAC-10 over for Ehome. A couple of MAC-10s, really. Not much to get too excited about, but it looks like they're going to give this retake a go, throwing the flashbang in there. Actually, Insane just deciding to back off, and they will take the MAC-10s through to the next round. The armor, I think, is the more important factor here for Ehome to save on through. But, you know, you can get those MAC-10s. You've obviously got a little bit of armor there for Slowly and Insane. You can drop the Deagle, the CZ over to Marek and Destroyer, respectively. And then you have a fairly decent buy-through for Ehome in this next round. MVP, though, have had absolutely no problems up to this point just yet. But it's only 2 rounds in, so I haven't really got a good grasp of how things are going to go here. And I guess to give some context, Ehome, this is their best map. They have an 80% win rate on it in the last 3 months, but the opposition that they're facing is not as strong as the opposition that MVP usually faces here. And for MVP's own right, they have also got an 80% win rate on this map. So it's kind of a clash of titans in a sense on Inferno here. It's sure to be a good map, I hope at least, that we're going to see something pretty exciting here.
Yeah, well, MVP will have to be a little bit careful this round. Of course, the 3rd round, if you lose the first 2, is normally a save. The fact that Ehome have managed to hold on to these MAC-10s and the pistols here does mean that, as you say, they'll drop the Deagle and the CZ over to the players who did die in the previous round. They keep 2 MAC-10s. This is not going to be a round they expect to win, right? Like, they've only got 3 sets of armor, very limited utility, but the alternative is normally they'd be saving. So now they've got a chance to limit the C economy here. If they can get a few frags, even though they should lose it because there's more utility and more firepower on the T side, they might get away with a few kills and keep the economy low. That's a good start.
Yeah, 1 for 1. Better than what Ehome perhaps could have hoped for. Zeph trying to retrieve the AK is also going to be dropped. MiniZeta having to back off. This is looking dangerous now for MVP. And here's where we need to see the firepower of MiniZeta. Almost gets to Insane on 22 HP. Does just get the better of him. But that's the kind of explosiveness that I'm talking about when I mention MiniZeta. Unfortunately, not enough this time for MVP to clinch the round, and Ehome get away with one.
And as I was saying halfway through that round, that was a round they probably weren't expecting to win. They just wanted to do damage, keep the T economy low. The fact they're able to come out of it and get an AK as well is a massive win for them. In a round that they had MAC-10s, limited armor, pistols. Destroyer finding 2 with a deal, I think, was a massive help in getting them that round on the board. But now for MVP, the buy is not as good as the CTs. They've got 3 AKs out of it, but Zeph's going to get completely isolated, stuck in a Molotov and flashed out. Gets peeked immediately and will be sprayed down. 4 versus 5, not a good start for MVP.
Yeah, let's see what Zion can do, though, here in the apartments. He always is a bit of a danger man. Leading the charge with the MAC-10, however. There is almost full head armor across there for Ehome, so the MAC-10 may not be quite as impactful just in this round for MVP. That being said, Zion always manages to find a way, doesn't he? So let's not count him out just yet. But Ehome looking at a lot more stable now that they have the guns in their hands. Even that last round looking a bit better, but this one obviously starting off well. Good utility usage in Banana, and MVP caught off guard by it. I don't think that MVP is going to play quite so quickly in their next gun round. They won't fall prey to the same thing.
Certainly want to hope not. Destroyer holding a very thin angle and will be rewarded as Glow shows his back. Peeking in towards, well, Diggity as we call it, trying to clear that out, and there was no backup, there was no utility. The smoke does go down to block off Arch, but it's late. Just gives Destroyer freedom to move back here to the A-bomb site. That's a good smoke to actually block him off now. So the AWP is finally isolated, but already a couple kills found. MVP in a very difficult situation here. This is going to be a rock-solid hold.
Yeah, most definitely. Not a single player lost yet for Ehome, and only the one does go down eventually as MiniZeta will grab kill onto Insane, but 2 apiece. Ehome with the full buy through and starting to build that CT economy up early with only 4 guns, or only the 1 gun drop, 4 guns through from that last round. MVP going to have to take an eco here. Not really even investing any pistols just yet. The money is quite low, but this really doesn't give them much of a chance in the round if they're going to run out with solidly Glocks.
Yeah, no, most likely just something fast here. Try to get the bomb down. You're not going to get much done spreading out and playing more of a default with Glocks, so looks like they're just going to be going into second mid, couple waiting at bottom mid, see if they get rushed. Most likely the end goal of the round here will just be running onto A, trying to get the bomb down, maybe jumping out of apps. But as you say, with just the Glocks, no utility, the best they can do is just run it. Maybe the AWP, try and run him down and get in his face with a bunch of pistols. Everyone else with the rifles should have no issues at all. Slowly's already found Zion and apps. Everyone else is only just getting there now, and looks like it will be that push through the smoke in mid, but no utility to help them do it. Re-smoke at top mid as well. MVP not getting much done here, or won't get much done.
Yeah, MVP grouping up, but not being given any opportunities. Utility usage has been good from Ehome. It's just keeping MVP at bay, but what they kind of want to do here is just sort of explode out and maybe find 1 or 2 kills very, very quickly if they can. Block's not doing a whole lot of damage there, though. And it's for Shits and Insane to find a couple of kills each. Ehome 3-2. MVP, though, well, I want to say they should get a buy through here. But it's not going to have an AWP.
Yeah, no, it certainly won't. Only player with enough money to afford one is Zion, and he'd have to go no armor if he took it, so should just be a full rifle buy out here from MVP. But these buys can certainly work. They've got enough utility to make it happen, so we'll see how they choose to approach this one. Insane is holding onto this SMG, the MP5 still in his hands, but a bunch of money in his back pocket, so he won't be bothered at all. And a quick pick into Banana goes unpunished. Destroyer gets in, gets the kill in the middle of a full rush, and manages to get out, and refaces to grab down Zion.
Yeah.
Not
Very
a great
problematic.
start for MVP.
This is definitely not a good start at all, Tim, for MVP. Like, normally where we see them have a lot of their advantages is because of that utility usage in Banana on the T and on the CT side, they're able to really bully their opposition. But in this round in particular, MVP didn't have quite enough money to get great amounts of utility through. And they are just going to be wiped away again. Ehome up 4-2. MVP have not shown us a single round where they've really looked very good.
Oh my god, look at all those AKs. They just managed to upgrade every single M4, even the MP5 on Insane, into an AK-47. That's a really big win for the CT side. This early on, 6 rounds in, you've got 4 AKs in your hands. Sure, it only takes 1 player to die, and then you've lost that gun, but that's a lot of firepower for them to have. They've got that single dink. They're just going up against the pistols this time. I mean, I think the most worrying sign for me in that round was a small thing, but it's the fact that Solo lost a duel to an MP5 with an AK. You got to win that engagement. At least get the first. When it's 100 health versus 100 health, you've really got to win that fight. If you get run down by an SMG when you're low, sure, but when it's the first fight you've had of the round, it's not a great sign.
Yeah, absolutely. Still waiting for more from MVP. It is still early days here, but it's not great early signs for MVP, that is for sure. Obviously, another eco out for them here. Going to be playing a little bit slower, and I mean, in this round, like, I want to say MVP should be trying to do some economic damage, but at this point, does it even matter? Look at how much money Ehome has got. If they lose 2 or 3 guns here, they're not going to care at all. 2 players above 10k. And almost everyone above 7k. It's just been another demolition of MVP right now on that T side. But look, here comes another good round for MVP. They've got a lot of money in this one. This is where you're going to get every single utility that you want. This is where you can probably get the AWP for Mini Zeta if that's an option that MVP want to take. And most certainly is. He's very, very solid with the AWP. So MVP, if they're going to win any round, it has to be this one now.
Certainly does. 3 players sitting on just a single frag. Not looking good for MVP, but as you say, it's early days. We're only in round number 8 now, so still plenty of time for MVP to potentially take this all the way to 10-5. That's a possibility for them. Going to go fast up mid here. Mini Zeta, though, with the AWP, will catch out the player running in. It's for Shits down.
And that's the opening that you want if you are MVP. First time in a gun round that they have had the first kill. So now they can really start to exploit the map a little bit more. Only the sole player in the A-bomb site at the moment for Ehome. MVP, not to know it, but if they would have bursted out on the site right now, it would have been a free take almost. Unless Slowly stepped up and did something insane. But rotations come across from Ehome, and they've posted Destroyer up quite aggressively in Banana. You can see this one falling apart for MVP if Solo just gets a little bit too greedy for info on Banana.
Well, the problem now for MVP is that they've slowed down, and they still want to go A.
Oh, great shot from Zeph.
Excellent shot.
Arek's going to peek from the exact same angle, and Zeph is going to drop. That's the bomb spotted, but it flies right back into the hands of MVP, and Glow is able to get the trade. Again, we're in a situation where it is just the one player here on the A site for Ehome, and Slowly has so much work to do. Not sure where they're coming from, checking around toward Library, but Zeta will go down. Slowly holding strong from the pit, forced away by that Molotov.
A lot of work to do though. Still 2 versus 3, and his teammate only just now arriving. But Smoke down. Slow's given another opportunity. He'll drop the bomb again and grab Zion.
Solo in the 1v1. He does have an AWP and a weapon that he does enjoy using. Going to use the smoke to grab the bomb, but let's see what happens here as Destroyer starts to push in. Timing's going to be good for him, surely. No, doesn't actually manage to get the jump up properly, and Solo escapes. Position given here to Solo, as he can just sit that bomb. Utility being used quite extensively here by Destroyer, and Solo takes the peak. Neither player hitting their shot. Solo misses another one, and so does Destroyer. That timer ticking away, but it is still favorable enough here for Ehome. Destroyer does have that kit, tapping the bomb. Solo not going to take the peak here by the looks of things. He gives up the round. Goodness me, MVP have found a way to lose that round from the jaws of victory, really.
Yeah, they grabbed defeat from clutch defeat from the jaws of victory, which is not the way you want to be doing things. But that's a really sloppy round from them. I mean, that actually could have all fallen apart when, with that first initial push, they get the fast pick on A, then fall back, but they don't have any control towards B. So normally when you get a kill on A and you don't keep pushing, you're going to anticipate that they rotate. Maybe that's when you go B. Maybe that's when you try and catch out the rotate. But instead, they walk just straight into the rotation. I mean, it works. They get the kills, but then they can't capitalize on slowly in pit. That was one of the sloppiest AWP 1v1s I think I've seen in quite some time. Unfortunately, neither player hitting their shots, and then Destroyer smoking or tapping the bomb and scoping at the same time. Normally, that's a play to draw the player into PQ, right? Because you can be scoped while defusing. So you can tap the bomb, have them come in and just shoot them, but instead just plays the mind game.
Wow.
Now though, MVP, fast up banana, sloppy engagements once again, but Solo will find Insane, 4v5. And again, single player on the bomb site, but MVP haven't sped up, which will allow the rotation to come in.
Yeah, at least another opening for MVP in this round. But we saw how the last round did turn out for them, so I'm not a whole lot confident on MVP right now. This T-side has definitely left a lot to be desired. Bit of utility being expended early on in the piece, however, by Ehome. And with 55 seconds still on the clock, MVP have plenty of time to work with. Only flashbangs for Ehome left here to hold off those bomb sites, and that's definitely a big advantage for MVP. They need to hit their shots, and that is definitely something that has been quite lacking today so far.
Well, they are in a 5v4. They've got a few players lit quite hard by the utility early on. Gonna go walking into Destroyer with no flashbang again. That's, I think, like 3 times that they've gone A, they've been punished by an AWP just watching that angle because they haven't smoked it, haven't flashed it, haven't done anything. Sure, they've got to give a bit of respect to the AWP Destroyer soon, but for now they will manage to make their way up arch and they can pinch on this bomb side.
Yeah, Zion going to be coming out through carpets. A good flashbang this time. Destroyer, however, still hits the shot onto Glow, but it won't be enough to hold off the A side. MVP are going to get in and get the bomb down. However, players are dropping left, right, and center for that T side. Marek has already made quite a bit of positioning. He's already got a lot of control in toward this A bomb site. Doesn't spot Solo just yet, but he's in a really good spot to get the trade, and surely they don't know that he's this close. Zion will go down, and now Solo in a 1v1 again. Does get the headshot across, but still is a one-shot for Marek. Eventually, Solo will win, and this time, with the rifle, getting a few shots across, MVP do clutch away their third round, but Ehome making it very, very close, making MVP work hard for this T side.
I can't decide if they're showing Ehome too much respect or not enough. Like they're, as you've seen, when they get the opening pick on either bomb site, they immediately get scared and slow down and stop, and they think, all right, let's reconsider. Can we rotate? Can we draw anyone out? Will we get a kill anywhere else on the map? Because that round, they had 3 players up banana. They got the first kill, and then immediately fell back so that their 2 players top mid could try and catch someone out getting too aggressive, right? So that's giving them a bit of respect, right? And saying, okay, let's try and catch out your rotations. We don't want to just 1v1 charge you. But then they're no respect peeking top mid, being like the AWP point hit this shot, and they've been AWPed by Destroyer holding a narrow angle. I think 3 out of the 4 times they've tried to do that, the one exception being when they threw the smoke and the flash, and MiniZeta was able to get up there and catch out the player running away. So other than that, they've just been giving up AWP frags everywhere. They're using utility after they lose a player and then go, oh, maybe now we should smoke and flash.
Yeah, not really seeing that trademark map control for MVP either, where they obviously force the CT side around the map. They throw a bit of utility into B, bring a rotator across, then rotate over to A themselves. Normally that's what MVP is very good at on their T side. Glow burning alive down to 36 HP. This grenade, don't think it's going to hit Glow, but actually does no damage at all. Very surprising. MVP throwing a bit of utility back into the top of banana themselves. That will force Ehome back out of there. Bit of an exchange early on in the piece, but things are going to slow down now, especially with this smoke from Ehome.
A lot of utility expended by both teams to take banana control, but a simple smoke will regain it for Ehome there. Thrown over from B, that does allow Insane to get close to this wall, but here's some footsteps. Spidey senses tingling, can be falling back from that one, doesn't want to get charged by the AKs, so still a little bit of util to work. Actually, no grenades at all. I thought I saw a player holding a grenade there on the X-ray, but I was incorrect. There is no grenades left on B.
Huh. Glow's going to take the AWP here. He does have fairly low HP, so you can see the sense there, but MiniZeta, I do like him with the AWP, and it's not often you see Glow with the AWP. In saying that, though, MiniZeta, we've already seen can have an impact with the rifle as well. MVP just going to be jumping straight onto that B bomb site. Smoke down late in for CT, but neither CTs are there. They're both on the site, and MVP have not dealt with them correctly. No trades coming out there from the T side, and Insane eventually will drop to Solo, who's been the one to do a lot of the work for MVP in these last few rounds. But 2v3 on the retake, given how low MVP's players are right now, you really cannot back them in this one. That's a good kill, though, from Glow. Does bring it back to a 2v2. Smoke down. Buying a little bit of time here for MVP to reposition, and Solo hits another good one. Now suddenly this starts to look doable for MVP. A player creeping through the smoke. Glow and Destroyer has absolutely no idea where he is. MVP will come away with another round, but another that turns into a 1v1 clutch. Very, very close stuff for MVP. They do get the round, and that's what's important at the moment.
Look at that, though. 4 1v1s in a row. 2 won by the CTs. 1 by the Ts. That's... Actually, that one was a defuse, and the T... No, yeah, that's right. I did run away. Okay, I'm confused. Either way, doesn't matter. Still very close rounds, and that one for MVP was so sloppy. Like, they smoke CT, they get the flash in, they blind out the player who's boosted. The second player is playing in cover, yet still they managed to lose 2 players on that entry, or even 3 actually. So, got to be recovering those ones if you're MVP. Got to go 1 for 1 getting onto the bomb sites and go with your utility, not after it. But we'll see. For now, it's looking to be a play towards the A bomb site. A couple players taking apps control, a couple holding bottom, mid, and banana, making sure that no one on Ehome is getting too pushy. But nonetheless, still the CT side with a bit of a lead here. And a full buy.
Yeah, but Ehome starting to drop some rounds here. You can see that's also dropping their economy quite low. MVP isn't having a great time in that department either, but at least they are winning these rounds. And Ehome starting to look a little bit more shaky now. Obviously, that last round, Ehome having the 3v2 advantage. 2 very low HP players on the B-bomb site for MVP, and Ehome can't get the job done there. That was a round that you probably would have said Ehome should win. Flash this time out for Destroyer, and he is going to get punished. So too is for Shits as he gets spotted by Zeph. And once more, it's slowly to hold strong from the pit for Ehome. Getting Zion, getting Zeph. And another player did drop there in the meanwhile. It's Solo actually that's down, and he has been the linchpin for MVP in a few of these rounds. Slowly doing great work from the pit, and Insane. He actually gets turned on by MiniZeta, and now slowly under a lot of pressure. Doesn't have the backup of his teammate. Glow will overwhelm him. And it does seem as though MVP in those 2v3s just working a little bit better than what Ehome are. And they are in a position now to clutch another round out. Great little turnaround from MiniZeta. That really kept the round alive for them. And now he might have another shot for him here against Marek. Easy done. 10-9 for MiniZeta. Hasn't been an outstanding performance, but I think the kills that he's been getting have been impact frags.
That round all breaks down on Insane running through that smoke and trying to flank. If he'd walked that, there was no way the AWP was turning around there. Like, MiniZeta only turned because he heard footsteps behind him. He thought, all right, one's flanking, I'm going to turn, then he hits the shot. If Insane walks that, sure, he'll get to the bomb site a little bit later, but he still would have got there either as they were planting or just post-plant, and they wouldn't have expected him there that quickly. So the fact that he runs through that, I mean, I can see both sides of it. Like, he's making the chance that they'll be too busy fighting my teammates in pit to turn around and fight me. I can get the flank through and kill them. But unfortunately, you know, like, he could have had the timing, could have been really nice. It didn't work out in the end, and from there, it's just 2v1s for MVP to take, and they take them easily. So now, finally, for Ehome, the money is on the ropes. They do have rifles out, but very limited utility. An MP9 and FAMAS for Insane and Slowly, respectively. 0 kits, 0 head armor as well, so this Mac 10 on Zion's going to have a great time. And if MVP can take this, finally, they will break that bank and they'll get themselves up in an anti-eco.
Yeah, well, that little amount of utility that Ehome did have has actually been used quite effectively. They know that MVP is close. Shits here, big, needs to step up, 3
flash.
Kills.
Oh, man,
Zeph, Glow, and Solo all drop. And MVP absolutely capitulate in that round.
I don't know where that flash hits, but it wasn't
Wasn't where it needed to.
Wasn't where it needed to be.
Not in
I
that
think it might have been high right to try and hit an AWPer that didn't see it coming, but look at this. He's not blind at all. Sprays down all three. They weren't ready for him to be close. That's an excellent play. And that completely shuts down MVP. And so much for that anti-eco that I was talking about.
Yeah.
That would have been the round to break the bank, but instead they replenished the Ehome economy by giving them some AKs. Double AWP in their hands as well.
Ooh,
And MVP
force.
going to have to force in with the SMGs. I mean, they don't want Ehome to run away with any more rounds than they want. MVP still want to win this half, and that means getting 8. So they've got to keep the pressure up on Ehome here. And sure enough, they can do this. Ehome just did it to them with a weaker buy, but if they can't take this, then they're looking at 10-5 territory. They're going to have to save next round.
Oh, well, you don't have too much confidence when you see the strongest weapon on your team is a UMP. But getting a bit of presence toward the A-bomb side. Not that Ehome knows just yet. That smoke down is keeping MVP at bay, but they are just going to look to explode out here. They're actually deciding to back off a little bit. There's a few players here on the A side, but you could well and truly see MVP taking this A side. If they were to waterfall out through carpets, jumping around with that MAC-10, I can see it happening.
Maybe. Something to note here for Ehome is that they've changed their setup slightly, pretty much every single round. Like, the B players have changed their crossfire every round since it worked. They've had their players in slightly different positions, and these A-side players are shuffling around as well between Balcony Pit, Graveyard, the AWPer hanging out near Library and Moto, so they're constantly keeping MVP guessing, and MVP are going one by one into a 3-player crossfire. This is the easiest hold of their lives. Sure, Solo will get 1. Zyno actually, okay, comes through
With 2.
with 2 even. I lied. It was Solo getting an assist. I can't read the kill feed apparently, but still, low HP, and AK recovered. Zion needs to have the round of his life here just to allow that bomb to go down. He will make his way out to pit. That's going to buy enough time for the bomb to be planted by Solo, but
20
again, given
seconds.
how low these players are, and yeah, they're up against the clock here, they can't really afford to even fake this. Solo's just going to make sure that the close corner is clear. Go for a safe plant, and the work is on Zion.
Yeah, unfortunately for him, Zion's been spotted and tagged through the wall. The AK here needs to have the impact. Solo actually gets 1 and Zion another. Now Solo with the AWP. He's got a great position here, but the bomb's not planted too nicely for him. At least he can play that timer a little bit. Destroyer will get the smoke down, deciding maybe not even to take this aim battle. Actually does drop that smoke. The UMP out, an easy clutch in the end there for Destroyer. But an expensive round nonetheless for the CT side.
Destroyer didn't even tap the bomb there, but Solo's still committed. That's unlucky for him. Couldn't quite hear it maybe over the popping of the smoke and just assumed that he was going to be on the bomb. Solo had to go in. With that AWP in hand, he's pretty much got to get in close range and try use the Glock.
Going to see another force here from MVP? I wonder. Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we
of
are.
course.
Again, they've got to. They don't want to let this half slip away. And the fact that they get...
But maybe in doing this, they are letting the half slip away, you know?
As,
like if they take a
that's the
full
thing.
eco
If
there...
they win this round, they're fine. And the only reason they can force this is because they get multiple kills with the SMGs last round. Like Zion gets 2 with a MAC-10, which is $1,200 in his bank account.
Yeah.
And they get the bomb down. If they hadn't got the SMG kills and they hadn't got the bomb plant, they'd be saving here. They wouldn't have the money.
Yeah, well. Desperate times call for desperate measures. 5 on the T side for MVP is not the worst scenario. We know they're very strong on CT, but you would have hoped for a little bit more from MVP here, and there is still an opportunity for that. A little bit more of a group up toward the B-bomb site, which I feel they've had a little bit more success toward. And the A side. A lot of utility still here for MVP. Same can be said for Ehome. This is a little bit more what we expect to see from MVP, where they've kind of got players on both sides of the map, just splitting up as their default and trying to draw a rotation across or keep a player busy. You can see right now that Fashitz is kind of floating in CT spawn. And he's going to start to head toward the B bomb site. If MVP commit here, then they are running into 3 players. They're just as likely to run back to the A bomb site after they throw these utilities.
They did throw the 2 smokes before. 1 smoke for backside, blocking off spools, and 1 for CT there. You can see both of them on Insane screen. They have just faded, but now they want to draw the rotate out. Instead, though, Fashitz is going to hear this coming. He's actually going to be able to commit. He's worried about the wrap now. Zeph gets up close with his UMP. This could be an entry for MVP.
Yeah, and he actually just backs his team to get the kill onto Fashitz. Zeta, the one to find that. Insane, the 3rd player on the site, cannot get anything done with the MP9. Jumping through the smoke, or above the smoke, is Zeph. Destroyer, however, missing the shot, and Ehome have decided to cut their losses. They need to save here. They'll have enough money to buy through in the next round, last round of the half, assuming they take these 2 guns through. It will actually look like a fairly reasonable buy for MVP. Bit of a touch and go round there, works out in their favor. They'll be up to 6. So I think 6 is really, at this point, quite a pass score for MVP. It's not bad, it's not great. But they'll be happy with it, given how the first sort of quarter of this game had gone. It really seemed like Ehome was going to put them under the pump, but not necessarily the case here for MVP.
Well, if they'd lost those guns, that would have put Ehome in the bin economically. But now that they do get that bit of money in hand, I mean, 2 players still have no money at all. At least Destroyer can drop an M4. Other players will be able to invest into SMGs. Actually, Insane can drop an M4 out as well, so they will actually get a decent amount of guns up here. That's not too bad for them, given that they are able to save a few guns through. But MVP now, they got the chance to push this one to 7 rounds. That last round, I think they were pretty lucky to come away with that, considering they threw the smokes to fake out the B bomb site, hoping that someone would rotate to A when they faded and heard nothing. But there was 3 players there. Nonetheless, MVP managed to get up close with the SMGs and find the frags that count. Very touch and go, though. So now looking for their 7th round, they'll be hoping to get it in a bit more of a solid fashion, just for momentum. Great nade on Destroyer, but it won't force him back. Excellent flashbang, though. Now Zef's just going to push and go straight for this kill.
Oh, he gets flashed himself, but he still gets the kill. Alright, getting the flashbang just a little bit too late, and as a result, Destroyer will go down. Zion can't actually calibrate the aim, though, onto Insane. And that brings it back to a 4v4, but MVP reading it correctly, headed toward the B bomb site. Fashitz is on the rotation, but he's got a FAMAS, he's got only flashbangs. Everyone's only got flashbangs here for Ehome. MVP favored in this round. Change of fire, and it will favor Ehome, rather. Fashitz now finding that AWP, and he actually does get Zeph on the entry. Marek needs to do some work here, and he will. Goes down. 1 is almost enough here for Ehome. Assuming Fashitz can survive with that AWP back aside here. Bomb is going to go down for MVP. And it looks like Solo wants to make a play through that smoke. Needs to wait on the timing, though. If he gets it wrong, he could die.
Minizetta just got double tagged by that AWP as well. That leaves all the work on Solo here. He'll be gifted the first frag, but it's messy. And now, Minizetta somehow comes away. Now we'll lift up Solo in the 1v1. Bomb still very recently planted. He's going to go for that full stick. Solo, you got to check this soon. He will find around the corner. Grab that 7th round for MVP. It was very close, very touch and go, but I mean, given how they started that half, 7 rounds isn't bad.
Yeah, you have to give a lot of credit there to Solo as well. I think that's 3 clutches in the 1v1 that he has actually won. He did lose one, but 3 out of 4 ain't bad.
And there was that big 2v5 that he got like 4 kills in.
So great work from Solo. A lot of impact kills. Again, we've talked about Minizetta before this match started, and he was a big player there for MVP in that first half as well. Not too crazy stats out from either team, just having a look at that one, but a lot of utility damage at least coming from Ehome. You've got to expect that, though. They were on the CT side, so you do typically get a bit of that when you throw those HE nades into Banana or Molotovs or whatever, what have you. Moving on to the CT side now, though, for MVP PK, and we are going to have to see how they play this one out. They got a pretty good first half there. I think 7's quite reasonable for MVP. Their start was not good, but they did close things out nicely. Pistol round important for both of these 2 teams, though, as the map does still hang in the balance, and it's a big stack on the B bomb site. Just leaving Solo on A, on his own, as MVP do tend to do. Don't see it too much, actually, on Inferno, but I do remember a lot on Cache. You see Solo playing the B site on his own, on the CT pistol, and once again, he's going to be doing that here on Inferno. But Ehome are headed in that direction, and Solo, all he really has to do here is get the info. If he can get 1 tap onto the head of one of these Ehome players, make it a 5v4 for the retake, he has done his job.
He did go for a bit of a jump spot around the corner there, though, and they heard that. So Ehome knows there's 1 player arch now. They also know that he can move, but
that's a really
with
smart
that,
smoke.
They're actually going to be bailing and heading towards B, which is where the stack is.
Yeah, maybe they think that there's 2 players on that A-bomb site, just based on his position and then the fact that a smoke comes into Carpet. Obviously, they know that he can move, but it might have just spooked them a little bit. And Ehome headed towards this big stack of MVP.
Was there a smoke? I'm trying to figure out who the heck could have had one.
I don't know. I thought Solo threw something. It must have been the decoy, actually.
Yeah, it must have been. Like, no one could afford
thought it was a smoke, but it was a decoy. Now that I look at the money, Destroyer opens up nicely for Ehome, however, and Glow not able to land any shots. Zine does get just the 1, but Ehome are getting dangerously close to these MVP players now, and this is where the Glocks start to reign supreme. Zine is only able to get a couple there, and no one else from MVP connecting any shots. As Ehome get the pistol in the second half as well.
That went almost the best that it could have there for MVP. I mean, Solo manages to spook them off A.
Yeah.
With just a jump and a decoy, manages to make them go B, which is where the 4-player stack is. Sure, Solo going down an A late there isn't great, but Ehome still didn't call the rotate based off that kill. They just told that one player who got that frag to wrap. So they had the best possible situation. They had a 4-on-5, but they made it into a 4-on-4. They had 4 players stacked in the bomb site. They had all of Ehome coming their way, and they still couldn't find the frags to convert it before the Glocks got too close for them to deal with. That gives Ehome the bye here. 2 AK-47s, 3 SMGs, bunch of nades. And on the MVP side, Armor CZs across the board. With the exception of Solo, saving a bit of extra money. But still, it's a round that really should have gone MVP's way, given that they managed to coerce the T's straight into their stack and still couldn't do anything. So I'm actually a lot more concerned for MVP here on Inferno than I thought I would be.
Yeah, definitely. It could all change after this round, though. MVP, what are they going to be able to do with just the pistol and armor? This time Solo is playing on his own on the B-bomb site, so some mind games here for Ehome to deal with. As they found the stack on B last round, now they're going to find a stack on A this round. Zeta playing anti-flash. Zeph has got the info there for Mini Zeta, and he'll turn around, doesn't quite get the kill, but a trade at least for MVP. And now Glow lurking up close. When they're all focused on Zeph, this could be dangerous for Ehome. And they deal with Zyne. Are they going to expect Glow from the same angle? In fact, it's Solo there from the same angle as well. Someone's come out from Carpets, and that is going to be the end of Glow, and it's probably going to be the end of MVP here as well. The CZ's not really working out too well for them. Zeph will drop eventually. 10 is up for Ehome. Slowly but surely they begin their march to 16. And it will be an eco here for MVP before they get that first gun round out. It's going to be quite a deficit that they need to come back from, assuming they do lose here, which it's very likely they will. 11-7.
It's another round for MVP. Unfortunately, they do put the stack in the right place, but they still can't find the frags that they need to. Unlucky there for Mini Zeta as well. He was playing anti-flash, had the perfect timing to spin around, but just couldn't win the duel. And you can't really fault MVP too much for that one. Like, as good as the CZ is, all it takes is like 2 missed bullets, and then you're just out of luck. You're not going to be able to find the spray. Destroy a fast up Banana will take down Mini Zeta. Not much happening in this round, given that it is just the USPs. Those AKs will be with the rest of the team getting escorted along to keep them safe, make sure that they can't get isolated by the CTs. There it is, with the exception. I was going to say, maybe with the exception of Slowly, but Insane was there to wrap up that frag if he didn't get it. So, good bit of money in the MAC-10s. Nothing gained for MVP once again. And if they buy here, I mean, they're going to, but it's not going to be good. If they pass up on their head armor, then they can buy a little bit more utility, but there's 2 MAC-10s on that T side. So, passing up on that head armor to get utility, while a sensible decision in the overall stand of things, is risky. And in the end, Zeph and Solo and Mini Zeta all going with that head armor. Solo so we can afford the orb, the others so they can have a barest minimum of utility along with their M4s.
Yeah.
Those MAC-10s going to have a bit of a field day. The UMP's there as well.
And what MVP will want to do here is they will just put a bit of presence into Banana and set Solo up on his own and then rotate those extra players over to the A bomb site. But they're going to be a little bit too slow. Glow flashed out, does actually just get back into the site in time. Perhaps a heart-stopping moment for him there. But Ehome already starting to ramp in, and it's going to be a tough hold here for MVP. Zyne starts off well, but we need to see more kills out from him. Just the 2, and Glow didn't manage to get a single one. And MVP, 3v3 for the retake. They've got barely any utility used, and Zeph getting tagged there as well, quite heavily. Puts him down to 9 HP, and that is definitely not the start to the retake that MVP would have wanted.
And now all of those SMGs, bearing in mind that 2 of these players who are alive did have SMGs when the round started. They've been upgraded to AKs and M4s taken from the bodies on the bomb site.
Solo's in a nice position here, though.
He can't get out balcony without support, though, because there could be one pit. Can't just walk out with an AWP and hope. Got to try and find a pick.
MVP are going to just back off, give up the round. Another one over to Ehome. Solo gets a consolation prize to close the round out. So at least they'll take 3 guns through. But the next buy here for MVP is not going to be particularly enjoyable. None of the players that kept the weapons are going to be able to drop a full M4. So it's going to be for Masters or UMPs for Glow and Zyne. I suspect Zyne might even be happy with a MAC-10. He does tend to like that weapon, but UMP's going to be the option. Surely you throw the AWP to Mini Zeta here.
No, I think what they want to do is they want to stack A, so they're probably going to set Solo up. Is he actually going
He's
to
going to A.
He's going to A. All right, never mind. I was going to say maybe they want to set Solo up to solo hold Banana, and then just put a stack on A with what guns they have. But that's not the case at all. Instead, they're just choosing to have 3 players on A, gambling on the fact that Ehome will end up over there if MVP taking off Banana control and Zeph. 1 or 2 bullets into the corner of that smoke would find him a frag, but instead he's going to sit here very precarious. Dropping that smoke will give away. Ooh, no, not quite.
Well, they do know that he's close.
Yeah, I thought it might have signaled to Destroyer where he was, but Destroyer doesn't want to give up his spot just yet. So MVP maintain banana control and get out, but still, Ehome playing this round very slowly. 1 minute and 10 seconds on the clock, and the majority of utility on MVP has been exhausted. Now, Ehome can start to use their own utility to regain banana.
Big
This is
grenade.
going to be, yeah, massive grenade. They've been throwing that pretty much every round. This is going to be a very difficult one for MVP to hold. They've lost pretty much all their utility. 2 players have been tagged down very low.
Glow might even just throw the utility here in A and then rotate over to B. Exactly what he will do. Ooh, decides to come back as Solo gets 2. That's huge, actually, for MVP, as it keeps that extra player on the A bomb site here for them. The CT side starting to look a little bit better, but Zeta's going to be forced out. He doesn't have HP here, but it doesn't matter. He gets the headshot onto Slowly. The players are just falling across the board for Ehome, 1 by 1. I reckon Insane, the last alive. I think they could still go for this. They've got a lot of money, and they can reset the economy of MVP, keep it low, but they decide to back off. And not necessarily to win the round, you know, but to keep that pressure on MVP. I think it might not have even been a bad choice.
Just
they
run
can
in,
definitely buy those extra AKs if they do drop them. And I don't know, maybe they don't know how much damage they've done to MVP here. I guess that would be the case because a lot of it did come off grenades.
Has Mark lagged out?
Quite possibly.
I'm hearing a tick of chat, so maybe he's lagged out and they're about to call a pause.
Well, that might be part of the reason why they didn't go for it.
Because he was just like shift walking forward, which is what happens when you disconnect. So
yeah. At least he was shift walking in the right direction to get away
That's
from
true.
MVP. So 12-8. It'll be a tech pause out from Ehome. Gives MVP a bit of time to chat. And that is much needed time, I think, as well, because they have a bit of a job on their hands here. I still have faith in MVP for this map. We've seen it time and time again that they can come back from deficits, especially on Inferno. Just going to take a good couple of rounds to get that confidence back up, get the money built up, and get the momentum back in the favor of MVP. I think if MVP start to control this game, then Ehome is going to fall apart. But we haven't really seen MVP in a position to actually control this map at all up to this point. You know, even though they've been getting rounds here and there, it's always kind of felt like Ehome was the one that was making things happen. And MVP was kind of playing more reactively than proactively.
And the thing is, for this point, for MVP, just talking about your belief in them, it's not been a bad half, right? It was an 8-7 half. They managed to grab 7 rounds at the end of the first 15. And it's only been, what, we're heading into the 6th round after this pause is done? It's been a 4-1 half, which is the pistol, couple anti-ecos, an early gun round, and now MVP managed to force back and win another one. So, or win their first of the half. So it's not been a bad half for them. You expect to lose 3 or 4 rounds when you lose the pistol if you can't get your force buys happening. So fair enough. The scoreline's not too bad for MVP, really. That last gun round looked pretty clean from them. Well, not really, but it turned out pretty clean for them, I should say. It was scrappy, but they still came away with 4 or 5 players up. So not the worst thing in the world. And interestingly enough, Solo managing to grab 2 AWP kills on B. I'm not sure how that happened, but they were very quick. So either way, doesn't matter. He managed to get them on the board. So we'll see. MVP, I still have a bit of belief as well, but Ehome have certainly looked a lot more organized, really, if nothing else.
Yeah, definitely. I think, again, another thing that we have to keep an eye on here for MVP is if or when we're going to see Zion, or rather Solo, get that AWP over to Mini Zeta, or what's going on there, because, you know, we don't normally see Mini Zeta be the one to give that AWP straight away over to Zion, but to Solo, but Solo so far has been taking the AWP.
I mean, it's been working reasonably well. He's been having decent impact with it, but, I mean, look, maybe it is just that Mini Zeta's feeling that rifle a bit more. He certainly hit an incredibly sharp, that double wallbang dink. I'm not sure where that came from, but that looked pretty sharp, so hopefully for MVP, he'll be able to continue that no matter what gun that he's using, whether he continues with the AWP, whether he takes the M4. I'm actually not sure, but if he can be hitting shots, doesn't matter what weapon he's holding, I guess. And given that they are setting Solo up to make these, as his name suggests, Solo plays all of the time, I think having an AWP is decent for him. He can help him to lock down Banana, as long as he's able to get the kills before they push. Because when you're holding B on Inferno, right, if you can hold them off as they push or before they push, you're fine. But as an AWPer, once they get onto the site, you pretty much have to just bail, hold an angle, and hope that you can stay alive until your teammates get to you. So I think it's going to be...
Looks like MVP's dropped someone now.
They have indeed.
Oh, no. No, it's still Ehome. All the MVP players are in there, but Mini Zeta's now on Ehome.
Okay, right. So it is still Marek who's missing.
Still GG. It's funny how the HUD does that.
Oh well, still works. Looks nice.
Back to the smooths.
Excellent. We can look at the fish. There they are. Fishing away. Actually, probably a really bad... I'm not sure that the verb for what fish do could be called fishing, because fishing is generally killing fish.
Yeah, that's true.
It's probably not appropriate.
Having a look across at who's been doing what in this map so far. No one on MVP is having a particularly amazing game. In fact, Zeph and Glow are really struggling at the moment. 34 and 41 ADR respectively.
Ouch.
And even Zion at 60 ADR. I mean, it's not amazing. And for Ehome, we've got a few players above 80. Actually, 4 out of the 5 players above 80 ADR. So they're definitely having a bit of a better time of things at the moment.
Hopefully this pause won't be going on for too much longer and we can jump back into Inferno. But I feel like MVP are in an okay spot in terms of the overall game. Like, I think they can come back into things here. I'm not sure at what point during that round Marek did lag out.
It must have been when they were going to save. It must have been after they went to save.
Yeah, I think it was right towards the end. I don't think it was early. I didn't notice him earlier in the round.
Otherwise, how would he have gotten out of that? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, he was already...
Oh, yeah, no, I was wondering if he got to apps and they wanted to take apps and then...
Maybe.
Yeah, but whatever. I think it was quite late, so I don't think it impacted the round at all. It just made them decide to save rather than going for damage, but it's still, like... Basically, my point there is that it wasn't a factor in them winning or losing the round. So I think MVP did look pretty solid there. We'll see if they're able to continue that. I'm still curious, as you are, about the whole AWPing thing, if Solo's going to keep it, if Mini Zeta will take it. Well, because while he's sharp with a rifle, they brought him onto AWP, right? He's replacing HSK, who was their AWPer for a while.
I get it if Solo's going to be AWPing B on his own, down Banana. Like, they're going to set him up, and that's his role, because Mini Zeta does typically play toward the A-bomb site. I get that if he's going to take the AWP. But if Solo's going to be taking the AWP to the A-bomb site, I don't really see the reason why you wouldn't have it in Mini Zeta's hands. I have a bit more faith in Mini Zeta. I think he's probably a little bit stronger with the AWP than Solo is. Especially because, like, so far this map, we haven't really seen Solo be that comfortable or confident with the AWP. You know, he's missed quite a few shots. Normally, he's fairly reasonable, but anyway. Doing a bit of a match medic right now, Tim. So it shouldn't be too long before we get back into the next round here on Inferno. But that is what I want to see. I guess it's going to be a case of when MVP do have enough money to get that double AWP through. I don't see a reason why Mini Zeta wouldn't take the AWP if he had the option, here on the CT side especially.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it allows him to be more mobile with an M4, especially if he wants to play, like, you know, around pit or close sight. Those are not angles that you can play with an AWP, but then if he had an AWP, he'd just play different angles. So, look, I'm not sure. I can't dig too much into it, especially when we're just looking at a pause screen. It's tough to break it down too far and exactly what they're doing. I think it is very common that, as you say, given I've got a bit of time, might as well talk about it. When you say setting up Solo on B, for those who don't know what that means, it's when MVP will take banana control using utility, so they'll throw smokes, they'll throw molotovs, get banana control, and then post up an AWP, either boosted on the wall or playing at the car or the barrels as they are now, and holding a line deep into banana, which means that if anyone comes banana, they're going to either have to use utility, which will allow the AWP to rotate off and call for someone else to help him, or he'll grab a free kill and then be able to do the same thing. So it works well, and it means they can pretty freely rotate another player, if not both players, over towards the A-bomb site. The only thing being that they have to have 2 or 3 on B even in the first 20 seconds to help get Solo established. But once they've done that, then they can fall back. And if he wants to have the AWP there, that's fair. I wouldn't really want an AWP like Mini Zeta to be holding B.
No.
Because you want him, whether he's got an AWP or an M4, a player of his caliber, you'd rather have them somewhere in a playmaking ability, not just sit here and hold this line. Because any player can do that. Like, any pro player can do the sit here and hold a line AWPing.
Yeah, most definitely. And Mini Zeta obviously is a bit of a flashy AWPer as well. We've seen in the past. In particular, that match against Flash that I continue to go back on and talk about. Yeah, well, yeah. Mirage was the map, and Mini Zeta with the AWP. Yeah, he was just doing some crazy stuff. I mean, MVP right now, like, they did try to set up Solo on Banana. In that first gun round, if you remember, they had 3 players there in Banana. They were throwing the utility, but the thing was, Ehome just kind of read it, or perhaps luckily decided to push into the A-bomb site quickly when there was only 2 players.
Yeah, that's the one weakness. If that strat.
them
is
early in the
UA.
round. So
Yeah.
I wonder if, I mean, Ehome could have potentially watched some VODs of MVP. Maybe they've recognized that MVP do get the AWP in the first round, their first gun round on the CT side, and they set it up in Banana, so they take a little bit of time on the B-bomb side, and could have been a read from Ehome. Could have been luck. I guess we have to wait and see how the rest of this half is going to play out.
That's the thing, like, we're still very early on. We've seen 2 gun rounds, I think, in total so far in this half. So, have to see what MVP choose to do with the remainder of their half. I mean, we could potentially be going all the way to 30 rounds here. It depends on if MVP can make a comeback, and if they can, how long it's going to take them. But we've still got a lot more Inferno to go once we come out of this pause.
Yeah, they're still working on the match medic. These things do take time. I want to talk a little bit about the MVP roster as a whole. Since those changes, I spoke about obviously Zion and Minizetta being the 2 quote-unquote star players, or the rising stars. I think at this point it's quite evident that Zion is definitely a star player for this roster. He's the highest rated performer, 1.31 in the last few months for MVP. And Minizetta being number 2 at 1.21 since joining MVP. So both of those 2 guys doing a lot of the heavy lifting here for MVP at the moment.
We haven't actually seen so much from Zion.
No,
this
exactly.
game. Like, he's certainly had a few rounds like that push into the A bomb side a few rounds back. He was able to get 2 kills while his teammate on the side, I think it was Glow, got nothing done. So he's still able to go 1 for 1 or 2 for 1, but he's certainly not been the highlight fragger dominating the entire map, especially on T side. Zion went missing a lot. Like, he had some okay rounds, but there was just a lot of situations where he wasn't making the plays that we're used to him making. He wasn't creating as much space for his team as he normally would. So hopefully for MVP, Zion will be able to wake up a bit. Like I said, he's not playing badly. He's just not being the dominant force that we normally expect. So hopefully he'll be able to come into his own. If Minizetta can grab that AWP or even keep the M4, but if he can continue fragging the way that he has been, because while I'm pretty sure his KD at the moment is around 1, like I think he's like 12, 13, 13, something like that, maybe even more. But he's been able to have a lot of his kills as being impact frags, like stopping a push or working on a retake, something like that, or on the T side doing the exact same thing, like opening up rounds in a man-down situation, like a lot of the 3v2s, things like that. So we'll see. Let's have a look at some scores quickly. Minizetta, yeah, 15-15. So he isn't doing too well in terms of going positive, but a lot of those frags have been impact. And it's worth noting that he is tied for top fragging on his team with Solo, who's 15-14. Man, Marek with 23. EF is enemies flashed, I believe. That's a lot of support flashes thrown for his team.
Yeah, well, we do see a lot of big numbers for enemies flashed, and I'm always like looking at them and going, is that real? But when you consider, you know, you might hit 2 or 3 people with the flashbang.
And I think it counts like the tiniest little
exactly.
like flashes as well. Like you can be flashed for half a second, like the little, you just get caught by the edge of the flash. I think that might still count.
Yeah. Another thing you can see is the utility damage numbers starting to build up a little bit for MVP now that they are on the CT side. But here we go into a round at number 21. Solo, again, will be taking the AWP. A lot of utility still across the board here for MVP. Looks like Solo's forgotten to buy utility, though. He's got 3.4k. But Zeph, very quick into Banana. This is a little bit more vintage MVP. The CT side, they always go aggressive in Banana. That grenade stack to follow up.
Better.
Big damage onto Fashitz and Ehome. That's a bit of a more difficult start to the round for them, but Insane here has an opportunity. Solo and Zion making some noise. He decides not to peek out on the balcony. But if he found the timing there, that would have been disastrous for MVP.
Zion's now got a line on it though, and they're rotating a player back over from B. MVP. Minizetta going to join his buds, so fair enough. 3 players on B early, take Banana control, get that opening kill. The nade stack as well to deny any presence from Team Mid. That slows Ehome down considerably. Allows MVP a lot of time to maneuver. Crossfire set on B. 3 players here on A. Solo with this AWP. I think he's taking it because Minizetta wants to rotate. Shadow spotted. That's an easy kill onto Slowly. The rest of his teammates fittingly moving too slowly to be able to trade him. And Insane really in the position to playmake here, but Zion been holding that angle all half. Solo's going to find an easy one through the flash. All on Marek now, 1v5.
Yeah, I don't think there's much for him here, but he will get Zed up. That'll be at least 1 gun taken away from MVP, but now you got to think, okay, if that AK or whatever, I think he had an M4. If that M4 gets picked up, for example, by Zeph, then the choice becomes for Minizetta, do I buy an AWP here in this next round? He'll have a bit of money.
Well, Zeph, I believe, can grab an AK because he's currently sitting most of the way down Banana. he should be able to push down towards T-stairs and grab the AK that Zeph
True.
dropped in the first frag. Or, was it him who got it the first kill?
Zeph did get the first kill, yeah.
So he should be able to grab that AK that he dropped earlier. And as for Marek, he's going to be saving once again. This time, not just running into a wall endlessly, so internet connection is still doing fine, but there's that AK for Zeph. There's the AK for Zeph, please, thank you. Maybe scared, but he was just clearing it out to make sure he wasn't going to get killed while he got it.
So what does MiniZeta buy now? Is it double ult for MVP?
He's certainly got the cash, but I wouldn't be surprised if he takes an M4 again, because the setup that they've been playing is this. They either go 3 players A early or 3 players B, and that's to allow them to get some control either. Like, mostly it's been B getting control down through Banana, like they did there. They got Zeph down early, he found that frag. Then they swapped out to 3 players over on A once they got the grenades down and stuff. So MiniZeta is one of the players who's rotating between B and A a lot. So you don't want your AWPer to be rotating, you'd rather have a rifle rotating, but Zion doesn't even jump across mid, just runs straight over, no utility, no flash, just counting that there wouldn't be an AWP there to hit that shot, I guess, and he'll be unlucky. Now Solo has to try and make a play, he's been run over. That's not great at all for MVP. They've got to save pretty much immediately as Insane finds 2 entries.
Yeah, that's all off the back of Zion, giving the free kill up. Ehome know that they can play aggressively there, and then they do. They punish MVP for it. It's not going to quite reset the MVP economy, but getting these 2 guns out would be fantastic for Ehome.
Solo, I think they got a little bit too adventurous. He was trying to make a bit of a play, hold off some presence, getting in towards the apartments. But walking in scope that far means that he either had to peek Boiler or peek the apartment room. And whichever one he peeked, he wouldn't be able to see the other. He chose the room, got destroyed from Boiler. Not much you can do apart from not be in that position. MiniZeta should get this easy kill here, but the flashbang straight in his face. Sprays away, will find one, but his gun goes down. And now Zeph looking for this trade, but he'll be taken down by Fashits as well. So that's both guns removed from the hands of MVP. They come out of it with nothing, and while they do still have the money to reinvest, they can get drops out into MiniZeta's hands from the other players on the team. It's going to be a serious hit to their economy, and they don't need to be giving up any rounds at this point, whether they can afford to or not. Finally, the double AWP's going to come out, but Ehome already sitting at 13, just 3 more required. MVP going to invest pretty much everything they've got into this round. Need to have a good one.
Well, it's not over until it's over, Tim, and MVP now bringing out the big guns. So, like you said, if it's going to happen in any round, it has to happen here for MVP. They have everything that they need. And MiniZeta will play aggressively on Banana. Great shot for Shits, goes down straight away.
Now here's the change-up. MiniZeta's now playing Banana. Solo's over on A, holding the angle on top mid. Does have backup from Arch, and with Zion holding out apartments, so there's actually a good setup here for MVP to work with. Solo smells the rat, throws a Molotov out, or incendiary I should say. The bomb's actually already crossed to the wall very close to him, but still decent positioning here for the T's, but CTs, but you got to hit those. Solo unfortunately wasn't looking the right way. Overextended just a little bit, and now Zion with a lot to do.
Zion and Glow with the crossfire on the site. A lot of info, though, for MVP that there's no one in Banana. So we are going to see MiniZeta start to rotate across. Zeph in a pretty dangerous position here, but he does at least have the AK. I think he had a UMP earlier on in this round, but he's been able to pick one up. So he does get that smoke down, and he'll be able to just back away a little bit here. Needs to be careful that no one comes through that smoke. Flashbangs might be getting set up here by Ehome. A lot of damage done onto Insane, and another little bit over to Marek. No kills just yet for Zeph, but he is certainly harrying Ehome as they start to make their way up Banana, doing a huge amount of damage. However, Ehome have forced the rotation back across to the B bomb site. That's MiniZeta again, and now they're headed towards A, and this is where they will commit to with 24 seconds on the clock. 2 players on the site for MVP. Utility coming in for Ehome late in the round. Good to see they've still got it. And Glow will take the first contact. No, in fact, it'll be Zion to get 2. MiniZeta misses a shot, and a critical shot indeed, as he does get punished for it. And now Zeph, who has not been having the greatest of games, is tasked with a 1v2 clutch. MVP have just been run around the map there by Ehome.
They couldn't get the frags in the bomb site when it mattered. Now Zeph will spot out the head, but gives away his location. So Marek on the bomb site has all the time he wants to select his angle. Going to go from up on the box, and slowly he's just playing for more info, playing the game very well indeed. Running Zeph into the corner. And Marek will grab that final frag. Single AWP retrieved as well. MVP invested everything into that with that double AWP.
Yep.
They're going to... the question is, do they force here and play for the win, or do they save and go for overtime?
Well, I've got to
Their
say
money's
now,
so low, they can't do both. They could try and deny 15, but they're going to go for the save.
I think this map's over now. Like, that
it is
last
too.
round was their last chance, MVP. Ehome have looked too good on this T side, and MVP, they just... I don't know, they're not hitting shots like they usually do.
It's not the MVP that we're used to seeing.
It's not. So Ehome have been given an opening here, and you definitely want to see them take advantage of it. They need to bring up this 16th round, make sure that they lock in that first map, because Dust 2 is still the next map, and it's still kind of up in the air. We're not really sure how that one's going to go for either of these two sides. Hasn't been a great map in the past for either Ehome or MVP. This has been a good map for both of them, and Inferno at the moment is favoring Ehome. MVP with just the pistols. As you say, looking for 15-15, I suppose.
They had to. And their options are to invest all of their money into trying denying MVP or Ehome hitting 15 now, or to let them hit 15 and then try and clutch back 6 in a row. Not liking their chances. Insane will surely check this corner. Surely will check this corner. Doesn't. Gives up the frag. That's Zion with an AK in hand.
Oh no. Oh no. Is MVP going to be able to stabilize off the back of this AK and somehow find a round? Ehome definitely do not want to let them do that. Minizetta here on B with just a USP, really unlikely to have much of an impact, and Ehome have called it correctly and made their way into the B site. We'll go down.
Smoke just fading CT, so bomb does get planted though, and they're not going for this. Zion's already saving the AK over on A. Doesn't like his teammates' chances, and indeed they're getting mowed down. So now starting to bail as well. With only a USP in hand, he might as well hang around, try and get a bit of damage, and he will look for a better angle, but Zion was saving before the round even, or before the retake even really started.
Well, taking that AK through is good news for MVP, at least for the next round. It'll bolster the buy a little bit, which they desperately need. Zion's going to have to do something with it, though, or throw it over to, I don't know, I guess Minizetta at this point is the key for MVP. Solo, yeah. I'd rather see Minizetta with the one with the AK, I think.
Well, Zion's going to lose it.
So I guess that doesn't matter anymore.
I mean, for me at that point, I feel like Zion should have just been hiding somewhere. Like, he was playing the angle, looking for the kill, didn't quite spot the head, fair enough. But when you're down 6 rounds, they're about to hit match point, you know that their money's going to be fine to buy in. Like, you're risking your own gun, which is one of the only ones that your team could have in the next round, for taking away a gun that they're going to be able to rebuy anyway. So I think that's just a little bit too risky there from Zion, but nonetheless, the M4s and very basic utility will come out, but if that AK is in hand, that's, you know, more utility, maybe even an AWP somehow. Solo, full flash, pushes down Banana.
Oh,
could actually get 2 kills here.
Almost gets 2. Just doesn't quite have enough bullets left in the M4 to continue the spray, but good damage done by Solo, so there might be another chapter left untold on this story of Inferno. Rotation needs to come across from MVP, however, as Ehome are setting up for A. And again, it does look like MVP are going to be just a little bit too late on the rotation. Zion gets absolutely swamped. And Zeph is going to get absolutely wrecked here as well. Marek gets the kill on the rotation. It's not looking good for MVP now. 4 versus 3, despite getting the opening frag. With that aggression from Solo, Glow will need to step up here. Needs 2, and he gets it. A 3rd must be the kill here for Glow, but he does go down, and still the advantage lies with Ehome. And Solo will drop. That's it. 16-9 is up. Ehome close out map 1 of Inferno over MVP PK, and I am absolutely astonished.
Yeah, I mean, that was not the MVP that we're used to seeing. That was an 8-7 first half. I think MVP were down like 5 or 6-1 at one point. And then, oh no, they weren't. They came back early. But still, that was 8-7 first half, 8-2 second half.
Crazy.
MVP only managed 2 rounds on their CT side, which is lackluster.
It's not like MVP didn't have their opportunities there either. They had a bunch of gun rounds, and they lost a bunch of gun rounds.
Yeah,
it wasn't a case of them just absolutely being wrecked in terms of the economy. MVP just could not get anything going on the CT side, and it does not seem like it's their day at the moment. So, questions now for MVP, especially moving into Dust 2, where, like I said before, we have seen some poor performances from MVP in the past, and I just don't know how it's going to go.
Yeah, I'm actually concerned. Like, I think if they can win Dust 2, then they should win 2-1. They should be able to take out Nuke. As much as this is not at all the MVP we're used to seeing on Inferno, I feel like Nuke should still be a pretty decent map for them. But then, I mean, Ehome left it in, and while their train isn't great, and fair enough, they wanted to ban train, they still left Nuke in that pool. It could have been an earlier ban for them, so I think they might just be okay with playing it. Still, should be an MVP win, but first they've got to survive Dust 2, and given their performance here on Inferno as we watch these replays, I mean, there's not a lot that really stands out to me as any particularly big round. Like, there's a lot of nice individual frags that we're seeing, but all of those frags that we just saw were one player getting one or two nice kills, and then the round still being lost.
Yeah, I can't really throw my hat in the ring with MVP for this next map, to be honest. Like, we saw a lot of the time Ehome really just outplaying MVP, but I think it was a lot from the strategic side. I mean, obviously, we didn't really see too much of MVP, like, hitting their shots. There was none of that pizzazz normally that we get to see out. The firepower, I suppose. But it also kind of got the sense that Ehome was able to just run around the map, and MVP wasn't quite there. They were always just, 5 seconds late or a little bit out of position or something like that, and Ehome was able to catch them.
The other thing that Ehome did really well, sorry to interrupt you there, but the other thing Ehome did really well for me was that they drew out so much utility using not much of their own. I can't remember which round it was, but there was one round in particular on Ehome's T side where MVP used all of their utility on B. It was 2 players worth, maybe even 3. I can't remember if they had a third who rotated, but they used all their utility, smokes, molotovs, flashes to take banana control. And then Ehome just threw a smoke deep banana and retook it back with basically like 2 flashes and a smoke, and then still had utility left to actually take B with when the players on side had nothing.
One thing we failed to mention is that MVP do typically start slow in these close qualifiers. They do tend to take a little bit to warm up and to become the best that they can be, Tim, which is what they are going to need to be here heading on to Dust 2. So we're expecting to see MVP stepping up, and hopefully they're going to be able to be the best that they can be. Obviously, when we talk about that, we always have to talk about MSI, who are one of the sponsors of the ESL Pro League. So thanks to them, obviously, for allowing this all to happen. But Ehome, at the moment, are poised to potentially knock MVP down into the lower bracket, and what a crazy world that would be. If MVP gets knocked into the lower bracket, Tyloo's already down there as well. Everything would be up in the air at that point.
The lower bracket is a nightmare now. Normally the lower bracket is like, okay, it's your second chance, like we just lost to Tyloo or MVP, we'll go down, we'll play the lower bracket, we'll come back, we'll get a second chance against them later. Yeah. No, you drop to the lower bracket, you're playing Tyloo MVP.
Well, we're going to find out whether or not MVP is going to be going to the lower bracket or if they're going to push us through to Map 3. First, though, a quick break. Don't go anywhere, though. Map 2 is coming up next.